Hey, who are we? So 4,300 miles of road is the sort of strategic road network, as I call it. Billion tons of freight are shifted on a yearly basis. 4 million people are on our network every day. And the interesting one for me is this 430,000 incidents that take place annually. Of those, 86% we clean up within an hour. You might say, well, why are you interested in that? Well, I think it's pretty good. Is the first thing. But lean has played a massive part in upping this figure. Interestingly, 12% only require the police. And so we operate a traffic officer service. Those of you from the UK will have seen our traffic officer vehicles. In Europe and America, the police attend all incidents. Therefore, I'm driving out. There's a bit of a waste there of their resources. Look at that. Look how much freight is shifted by road. But you thought, rail would beat water. But no, it doesn't, not in the UK. And these are inland waterways, not coastal stuff. So roads are still king in the UK for our economy. Our lean journey, bit of a complex slide, this one. We've got a time scale across the middle, external influences to the top, and internal stuff, which happened within National Highways. So going back in time, Latham Report, Egan Report, Heathrow T5 was being built started in 2002. I stay, still probably a premier lean project in the United Kingdom. But a big thing happened. 2004, I joined National Highways with two other guys, Paul Doney, Derek Drysdale, and we worked in major projects. But we wanted to do things differently. And this guy, Derek, he knew a bit about lean, and that was really the catalyst for deploying lean within our environment in the Northwest. We had a desire to change. We self-educated. We got to network with experts, academics at the time. And the thing on the ground, there was very few lean consultants that did anything in construction. But for the work that we did in the Northwest, we captured and measured what we did. So, we were ticking along, big thrill. But externally, our capital program in a short period went up 25% in 18 months. We really were in a bit of a jam. Global recession was taking place, and the government said, if you don't up your game, there's a chance we're going to privatize you or do something differently. And they brought in this guy called Nichols, and they did a review. That crisis was the lever for lean. So if you're starting in lean, look for a lever, look for a crisis. It will get you underway. If that hadn't happened, I won't be speaking to you here today. So we were given board approval, and the board said, hey, we're in a jam. Here's £1 million. In that first year, we got £1 million. Can you believe it? What are you going to do? There were three of us. Our supply chain, 184,000 people. We said to our suppliers, if you're not going to do lean, you're not going to work for us. Simple as that. I don't know whether we could have enforced it, but that was the message. We said, but don't worry, we're going to train you. And we trained our supply chain actually in Six Sigma at the time. We then moved on to lean. And that's been the journey. That was the starting point. I'm going to tell you about some of the good stuff we do. Interestingly, in 2015, the government said, we're going to give you money in 5-year batches, road investment strategy periods, they're called. And we're given targets to deliver lean efficiencies, which is great. And I'm going to speak about these outputs from those periods shortly. National Highways lean team and the buddy relationship. I have 6 buddies that I work with, our tier 1 suppliers. 2 of those are with us today, Balfours, Stuart there, Barbara from Arcadis. Model is basically that we work closely with our suppliers to drive lean within those companies. I meet with Stuart and Barbara separately. We have performance meetings on a monthly basis. And then annually, we review their lean maturity. And it's that, when you think about it, if you want to know you've made a difference, you've got to measure your performance. So lean tools and techniques we deploy. I'm going to skip through a few of these because you should know them. But there's our house of lean, built upon a foundation of people, their capability. The tools that we deploy, collab planning is big in our world, visual performance management, which links to the collab planning, problem solving, benefits realization, obviously, show me the money, and knowledge transfer. You know, we capture the knowledge and transfer it out. More of that we do, we improve our lean maturity. Okay, collab planning, you should all know this. Okay, I put Union Jack, Stars and Stripes. In America, it's the last planner system. In the UK, we had to call it collaborative planning. They're exactly the same. It's just we had a bit of a dispute on, you know, using the last planner name. 11%, why should we use collaborative planning? What's this all about? So, you know what, we deliver 11% of our projects to time and budget. Is that good? Is it bad? Some people think it's good. I don't, but that's another matter. The reason I think it's good is because actually the overall average for project performance in the UK is worse than that. So you could say, well, we are better than that. That is supposed to represent the sword of Damocles, that oil painting there. But yeah, that's why collab planning is essential to us. Those are the steps that we normally go through. You should all know this. Milestone, scheduling, phase planning, make ready, weekly production, daily production, management systems. Great system. This is a technique, though, we developed within our organization, collab planning system. Rather, when you've got a program of projects to deliver, you know, collab planning needs extending. Can't work to dates across the top as you would on a project. We work to milestone events. Okay, very quickly, there is a war room. You can see straight away what's red and green. There's a whole race of projects that we're tracking there. This is in the old days, isn't it? Eh? You know, a little magnetic card. They're stuck on the board. Every project has one of these, and we track it through the milestones. For me, excellent system, but it can be replicated, you know, obviously on a computer. Visual performance management, I'm sure you all know that well. Our approach to structured problem solving is we use RDMake, it's our standard that we use. I say to the team, you know, really once you master this, I can parachute you in anywhere and you can solve any problem. Benefits of lean deployment. Well, I mentioned before about the 5-year tranches of work. We're currently just coming to, you know, the end of road period 2. Road period 1, we had a target. The overall target that we were set as an organization was 1.2 billion. Target for lean in that first year period, 250. We delivered 330 million. Great. It was the first year that we'd done, or the first 5 years that we'd done it. Road period number 2, 2020 to 25, we had a target overall of 2.23 billion. Lean target was 400 million. And you know what? Lean enabled efficiencies. Through me saying to Stuart, hey, and you, Barbara, let's see some of these lean efficiencies. We have delivered 1.9 billion as a figure of lean efficiencies, which is, you know, it's damn good, isn't it? You know, it really is. But as good as it is, still lean is not really as good on the radar in our organizations it can be. Jewels in our crown, what do you know? How do we know we're getting better in terms of lean? We introduced a thing called the, it's gone through various iterations. It is a lean maturity assessment. We call it HELMA. 10 strategic areas that we look at to measure a business. Every year, I will be visiting Barbara and Stuart, and we do a day's assessment. And we record this and also do improvement action plans based on these 10 points. This is what we are known for throughout the world, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done in this sphere. Started in 2011, and we've got data from then, you know, tracking Stuart, Barbara, and all our 26 tier 1 suppliers. So the other stuff that we do, which is really important, is CEO and managing director lean training, not only internally within our organization, but with each of our suppliers. Why do you want to train your supply chain MD? Because they're the people who make the decisions. Should I do lean in my organization? I don't know. But me as the client say, hey, I'll give you some free training. Are you up for it? Yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. but it's about opening their eyes so they can see. I want leaders doing, as I say there, not watching from the sidelines. Okay, so what's next in our organisation? What is going to be coming, over the next 5 years? Integrating project delivery is still high on our agenda. Some of my colleagues have been over to Finland, where in Finland they're delivering their projects to 82% time on budget. Okay, they're a bit smaller than us, but still they've got some great control. We've spoken to Sutter Health, so that's an area that we really want to develop. BIM is an area that needs some work on. We have some great BIM models. So major projects teams, major project schemes produce excellent BIM models, which then should be worked into our operation teams who can use that model to work out their maintenance programs and budgets. We have a massive disconnect at that interface, and we've got work to do. We've got to maintain and sustain our current resources of the team. We are on an embargo of recruiting at the moment, so it's a strain for us. I want to mention this one to you as well, an acronym, PI. PI applies to my organisation, Stuart's, Barbara's, to us all as a group. PI stands for performance, image and exposure. I can't remember which book I read this in. That was so our performance for me is great. 1.9 billion. What more do you want? Cripes, fabulous. Image, I'm not quite sure what our image is, but we're working on image and exposure. And I think that's what you've got to really think about today. How are we going to get more exposure for lean, which is mega important? And leadership education is going to be ongoing with our suppliers and still with our exec team. All done.
Wow.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it me now?
It is, eh?
Shall we maybe get a couple of questions? Because you actually
If you got anyone, you can, if we've got a minute or two.
go, so we have time. Please, Rakesh.
Thank you very presentation. In this lean journey that you have demonstrated now,
Yeah.
Where does the off-site intervention fit in?
In
Building industry, off-site construction is right now it's picking up to head towards lean. In highways sector,
yeah.
do we think that off-site interventions like creating patches of roads and then transporting them?
Well, because you can take modular construction, which would be a lot of off-site stuff. It's a really interesting point that you've raised here, in so much that we at National Highways also write all the standards for any form of construction that takes place on the network. And one of the downsides is, and I don't believe that modular construction is anything that new, but we haven't got standards as yet which take account of using modular construction. So on a scheme, we decide, hey, modular construction, we've been down to the depot of, I've forgotten the name of the place. It's a big company who does precast. Anyway, we went down to the big company. Yeah, that's it, Laing O'Rourke. And on a particular scheme said, right, we're going to start using modular construction. Okay, have we got a standard for it? No. Well, the specialist guys which look after them, it's going to take us a while to review it. So it's an area of challenge. We've got to do, somehow I've got to get to a position where we can get easy approval of new techniques which meet our needs in terms of quality, delivery, and long life. So a challenge, but yeah, we're certainly looking at it. No?
Talking at Laing O'Rourke, I went there a couple of weeks ago, and we had a look at the graveyard of bridge components for HS2.
Yeah.
Which has been there for 3 years now, and there were 1,500 different components. And you looked at them all, and they looked identical. There were 450 different permutations. And so some of these are just curves that vary by 1 degree.
Wow, yeah.
And you think, Laing O'Rourke are our go-ahead company. I think, how on earth did they not realise you have to batch that?
Mm.
But
No, it's just,
There's a lot to do.
yeah.
You're talking about how much work you're doing. Do you reflect that back to your maintenance budget? So you've got your capital budget.
Yeah.
Are you reducing your maintenance budget? And is the quality improving? And how do you measure that?
Yeah, it's a good one, that. Yeah. Yes, we do. The maintenance contracts, the people actually do the maintenance now are on long-term contracts. They're on 15-year contracts. Again, our focus hasn't been as much as it should be in that area. We've had to chase the money in terms of we're spending a lot more money on our capital schemes. But it is, as we move into RIS 3, we are now moving into solely pretty much big maintenance schemes, and consequently it will receive focus from ourselves.
But is your what I'm trying to say is by doing lean,
Yeah.
are you producing better quality, therefore, in effect, reducing the maintenance that you require?
Yes, that would be a lovely aspiration. Certainly be somewhere I'd like to go, but currently not as much as I would like.
Thank you. The last one, yeah.
Yeah, last one. You mentioned about the BIM models and stuff that you're trying to close the gap on.
Yeah.
In comparison to what Network Rail have, they've got a huge amount of data collection and asset management for bridges and monitoring.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're going to do or doing at all or considered?
Well, we do have an asset management system like Network Rail does have, but I think a lot of that asset management we're not currently using BIM models. It's just old hard data. I want to get it so in the new world that we get some fabulous, most fantastic models produced for major project schemes, but who is the customer for these things? And I definitely think it's the operations people who are the main customer, so that we can use those things for maintenance. And there's a big disconnect at the moment. One, we haven't sufficient software in our operations team to read the BIM models. We haven't got people of sufficient training, so we've got work to do.
And have you got any like mobile laser scanning plans to capture all those assets at the moment, or is that something that's...
No, they are all captured, and we have scanned what we've got. It's not like we've got rooms full of old rolled up drawings, but yeah. But it's an area, there is a significant amount of waste within our records. And I would say sometimes we're sending maintenance crews to go out, may not be able to, there might be twice as many assets out there than actually we've indicated on the worksheets, or sometimes even half the number. So it's something that we need to get a grip on. Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, shall we move on then to Neil Sims? Oh, sorry. Sorry, you Tom Will from Alphabeti. Yeah, I apologize. So developing a lean culture that's built to last. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
It's nice.
I apologize.
Just wait for my slide deck to come on up. I'll introduce myself. I've not put a slide in about me. My name's Jamwell. I'm currently the head of performance, quality and business improvement for Alphabeti across the highway, transportation and major projects division. My background is aviation, automotive and aerospace. I don't need that, you're all right.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody hear me all right?
People online, they don't hear you.
All right, well then stick it on then, there we go. Thank you. Trying to do my makeup at the same time, or? So yeah, I'm a bit like Neil. My background before I came into construction. Yeah, I need my presentation, please. Yeah. I've worked in various automotive manufacturers. My last role before construction was Jaguar Land Rover, where I was production director. And I came into construction probably about 14 years ago, similar sort of time that the lean team was kicking off in National Highways. I joined a project with a company called Mott MacDonald. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey and what we've been on. So I'm going to kick these off. Incredible journeys. You'll recognize some of these pictures. Disney's incredible journey. 2 dogs and a cat dropped off the back of a lorry that made it across America. That's a journey I'm going on next year with my better half. We're going to go and do Route 66 in a camper van. That's our holiday next year. And then Frodo and Sam, the Lord of the Rings. Now, they're all incredible journeys, but not as incredible as Balfour's. So my startup, no, that's Middle Earth. Mine started off in Area 10, which was National Highways Area 10. So we covered a section of National Highways program of work under what we called an asset support contract. So we had capital expenditure projects, but we also had maintenance projects as well. 440 kilometres of motorway, busy sections between 260 and 295,000 vehicles at any one time. One particular section of the scheme that we looked after is called Thelwall Viaduct. If anybody knows, it's near Warrington. Takes on average around about 40,000 HGVs across the top of it. Similar to Dartford Crossing, but we're not getting a posh tunnel to go underneath the Manchester Ship Canal. We have to keep maintaining the Thelwall Viaduct. I joined when the project was in a real state of flux. 2 years into a 5-year scheme, we were on our 5th contract director. We'd had 2 improvement notices issued to us by the client, and we were told, sort it out or ship out, was basically the message that we got. So we did a piece of work, and this is a 2016 report from the Lean Construction Institute that identified that projects that introduced lean on a more in-depth basis performed better overall. And they studied, I think it was 83 companies that 83 projects to pull that data together. And the project director at the time that was in Area 10, we've been having conversations with the LCI in the United States about various different projects that was going on. I see Alan in the room. You know, we spoke to the likes of Glenn, and we spoke to Will Listig and so on about various different things that were going on. We looked at trying to find ways of improving a contract that was in poor performance. It needed significant improvement. The team were very much, I'm sure you've seen this before, we were very much output orientated. We just need to get the stuff out there. We just need to deliver rather than actually focusing on what was actually required. So we were very much in that firefighting place rather than being more proactive. And this was our spend. So same sort of thing, RIS period, we would get so much. We get a thing called a SOFA, so the Statement of Funds Available. And every year, we typically got 65 million-ish pounds off National Highways, or the Highways Agency it was called back then, to spend in the area to maintain the network in Area 10. In the first year of the contract, we gave 40 million pounds of that money back to National Highways. We weren't ready. We couldn't spend it. We failed to deliver. Not a great place to be. The following year, National Highways then said, well, we're going to give you another 25 million on top of the 65. Go and make up and deliver what you need to do in year 2. We got better performance. We hit 60 million, just a little bit over, but we still gave back 32.5 million. So we failed to hit the 65 that we should have hit anyway and got nowhere near the extra that we needed to do. And at that point, our lean journey started. We brought in the contract director, brought myself in. We had a team of 2, and we started at that point looking at our processes, looking at the way we were going to work, looking at how we did things. And over the course of the next 3 years, we got given 70-ish million pounds in year 3. We delivered 66. The following year, we got given 65 million. We delivered 67. The year after, we were given 60 million. We delivered 70. We actually got money from another area that was in Area 12 that was struggling to deliver what they were doing. And that was because we got designs on the shelf that had been pre-approved, priced, and were sat there ready to rock and roll. We then got an extension on the contract, which is the first time the contract's ever been extended. No one else had been an incumbent on that scheme that ever had the contract extended. And in the following year, we delivered 12 months worth of work in 9 months. And then we spent the last 3 months of that contract getting ready for handover. So we cleared the work. We still maintained what we had to do for the final 3 months, but we cleared the workload of the new schemes and the new elements we had to deliver. And we got into the space where we were actually starting to do handover. And on the 31st of March, 2019, we turned our computer off. Amy turned their computer on at 12 o'clock midnight. The guys and girls who were out there on the maintenance swapped their polo shirts over from Balfour Beatty polo shirts to Amy polo shirts, and the handover was smooth. And it was my understanding from National Highways and conversation with them is it was one of the best handovers they've ever had. You know, and at the time they were struggling in Area 7 to roll out the OD model, etc. So that's where it all started. How did we do it? 16 core projects broken down to cover specific functions that we were working on in the business, areas where we thought there was a problem. And it was all underpinned by lean and continuous improvement. We had an element in every one of the other projects. Rhythm of the business is one of my particular favourites. This was the collaborative planning at the time that National Highways were introducing. Task made ready, short interval control. How do we get into that rhythm of managing our programme of work so that we follow a sequence? The meetings are in the diaries. We've got people who actually have terms of reference for every meeting. Every first Tuesday of the month, we do task made ready. We look at the following month's programme. Every last Tuesday of the month, we look at the following month's programme and close out the items that we can actually go and do. So we program the work that we're able to do. So we improved our productivity, we improved our predictability, and we improved our safety on our projects. Over the 3 years from when I got involved in the project, we logged more than 35 improvement projects to the tune of about £65 million worth of efficiencies given back to National Highways. So when you think about we were only given £65 million a year and we'd failed to spend £40 million in our first year, to be able to give £65 million worth of efficiencies towards National Highways, 330 million that they delivered in RIS 1, it was a significant achievement. It demonstrated that doing lean really worked. Results-wise, sample of what we achieved, 237 process maps, all mapped and systemised into a place where everyone could use them. A new starter would come in, depending on what team they started in. They could go straight to the process that they belonged to. They knew what they had to do. 2,525 process improvement audits. We used to call them the pies that you're referring to. We call them process improvement events. 7th Octane, we had Pie Club in Area 10, which were actually pies involved, as you can probably tell. 977 NCRs raised and closed using lean intervention. Lean team getting involved to actually get to the root cause of the problem.
What is an NCR?
Non-conformance report. So where we failed to deliver something or something's gone wrong in the eyes of the client, that we would then get awarded quality management points. We'd not managed it properly, or the process we were working on. 2 big projects for me that I was involved in. National Highways did a project called the 1,000-ton project. 1,000 tons of asphalt in one night with one team on the M1, not far from here. No one had ever done it again. We took the model. We went and worked with a guy called John Lasecco from National Highways. And we went out with one crew in one night. We put 1,200 tons of blacktop down on the motorway. That target's now, I think it's now been exceeded around about 1,500, 1,600 tons now, as the process has got better and it's been managed. The whole journey was captured in a document and a paper that was written called The Road to Reliability. Happy to share that paper with anybody if they want it after this event. It does make good reading. There's some of the benefits we delivered. I'm particularly proud of cost. 100% capital spend by the time we got lean embedded into the project. 99% forecasting accuracy. So if we said we're going to do it, we were 99% accurate on what we actually went and did and what it actually cost us. 22 out of 24 months, we closed out every single non-conformance within the month that it was raised. First contract to get BS 11,000, the collaboration with National Highways. And then Neil mentioned Helmer before. We've been part of the same thing. We've been on that Helmer journey. We were the first project to achieve an overall moderated score of 3. So Helmer was 0 to 4. 3 was kind of like 2 was the target that National Highways wanted all of their projects to achieve. And we slowly worked our way up and we achieved a 3. At the same time, all of that was going on, Balfour Beatty themselves were going through a significant change. Now, you may not be aware that Balfour's 10 years ago were roughly £1 billion the wrong side of the bank balance. We were facing being bought out by a company called Carillion. Yes, look where they are now. I've got to be careful what I say. Balfour's brought in a new CEO, Leo Quinn. Leo's retiring or leaving us in September. He's been with us for just over 10 years. And Leo set about his transformational change model called Built to Last. And it's the first time I've ever seen in any of the industries I've worked in, any of the companies I've worked in, where lean was the first pillar of the transformation of a business. And bear in mind, Area 10 project was only 40, 50 million pounds, the wrong side of the bank balance. We were £1 billion. Balfour's was £1 billion. The first thing they hung the hook on was lean. If we can't be lean, and let this catch up and let do that, If you can't be lean and take the waste out of your processes and demonstrate that you can actually be what you say you're going to do, you actually go and do, how can you be classed as an expert? Once you're classed as an expert, you become the leaders of tomorrow. You start to demonstrate that expert knowledge that you've got because you know you're doing it because your processes are so good. When you become an expert, you start to get trusted by your clients. The people that you do the work for, they start to listen to what you're saying. We tendered for Lower Thames Crossing recently for the Northern Roads. Normally when you tender on a project that's 1.4, 1.6 billion, you get a string of RFIs and TQs from the client wanting answers to questions or evidence you've put into your tender. We were awarded the job without very many RFIs and TQs. Off the back of the client understood what we said we were going to do, we could actually go and do. Got to be built around safety culture. When I joined Balfours, safety was not great. It was quite well publicised that we'd had a few fatalities. Our safety culture is imperative. If it can't be done safely, don't do it at all. And then more recently, we've introduced sustainability. How do we sustain what we're doing? How do we know that it's embedded? How do we know it's become a behaviour? How it's become part of the culture? And that whole sustainability piece. So over the last same time that we've been in Area 10, I've been working with Balfour BT, we've done a bunch of stuff. We've developed a Lean Academy, and an industry development pathway. We offer this to all of our supply chain that get involved. We've had National Highway staff come on our training programme. We offer it to anybody. Anybody's welcome to join our Lean Academy. Structured series of training programs, depending on what you get, aligned to the ISO 18404, standard for Lean and Six Sigma. Leads me to that. We were the first company globally since its pilot to achieve the standard for ISO 18404. Now, 3 years later, we've put somewhere in the region of about 300 lean practitioners through the accreditation. We've supported the Smart Motorways Alliance, through fantastically led by Paul. They became the first alliance to achieve 18404. Balfour BT earlier this year became the first company to reattain its accreditation. And the feedback from the auditors is that we've pushed the boundaries of lean, not only deploying it, but we've grown capability within our own business, our supply chain, and our client. We developed a competency system called CAMEA. And in the CAMEA are all our job families, everything from engineers to quality to finance, commercial. And each one of those job families and those job roles has a lean competency and a lean requirement built into their role. Now, whether you have to be knowledgeable, skilled, an industry leader, there's different criteria depending on the role that you go through. So as you pass through a job family, as a junior engineer, site engineer going up, you know what you've got to achieve to go forward. So we've got a competency framework that manages our lean capability across our business and demonstrates that capability and demonstrates the gaps where things need improving. Lean team support that. The results, so what does it mean big picture wise? When we started 2015, when Leo came in, like I said, our turnover's grown from 6.4 billion to 9.8 billion. This year, we topped over the £10 billion mark. There you can see lean right at the top, £815 million in net cash in the bank. Bearing in mind, we were almost £1 billion net cash, the wrong side of the bank balance 10 years ago. £297 million worth of operating profit. So we can demonstrate that lean's contributed to that operating profit. We've got an order book that's gone from 12.7 billion to 17.9 billion. So we've got almost 2 years worth of work for everybody in Balfour BT already on the books. Okay, that's where we know our clients trust us. We know we get the actual support from the customers that we work with, and it's all sort of underpinned and improved by a fantastic safety record, a great sustainability record, and environmental performance. So this kind of, I think, is my last slide. Lean has helped to deliver improved productivity. We can demonstrate that because we know our projects are increasing the PPC. We're delivering our projects quicker. We've got a scheme that's just finished on the M1, a central concrete barrier replacement scheme. We've had 4 schemes, just keep moving down the M1 and the M62. Scheme 1, 12-month scheme, delivered in 10 months. Scheme 2, 12-month scheme delivered in 9 months. Scheme 3, National Highways Cotton Don. It's got to be a 9-month scheme. This next one's due, delivered in 7 months. And we're currently heading towards a 6-month program for a 9-month scheme on Scheme 4. Challenging what we do every single day, you know, making sure our productivity is right, making sure our process is correct. And when something happens and it goes wrong, we jump on it straight away. We don't wait a month for a meeting. We're very, very much, we are reactive in a proactive way in actually getting those things done. Efficiencies, RIS 2, I think we've had signed off at level 2 in National Highways, around about £227 million worth of efficiencies. Bearing in mind in RIS 1, we did 65 billion, so almost 4 times as much efficiencies in RIS 2. We've got a really, really good interaction and great interaction with our project teams, a lot more visible, a voice for the workforce. People can come to us now with suggestions to improve things, whereas previously they didn't feel like they could put the hand above the parapet. Performance, increased performance, challenging the conventional ways of project delivery. So somebody mentioned before about off-site, and we remember the Thorley Lane Bridge. We built Thorley Lane off-site with the concrete in a factory. We brought it, we assembled it off-site next to where it was going to be installed, and then we drove it down to site over one weekend and installed it in place. Collaboration, we've enhanced that collaboration between not only our customers that we work for, the projects contribute and talk to each other. So projects doing with a different supply chain group in 2 different sections of the UK will share best practice and lessons learned to improve what they're doing. And we've also got a better relationship now with key stakeholders and clients. So that's me.
Thank you.
There you go. And I did it in less than 20 minutes. Yeah. That's first time ever. Yeah. Yeah, the press, he was staring at me in the face. And I knew Alan would put his hand up straight away. Go on, Alan. 1, 2, the big picture. Yeah.
Over what period is this data?
From 2015 to 2024.
Okay, so what's the rate of inflation, or how has inflation changed the values, or are these at constant prices?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. So if we look in 2014, we had a loss of 304 million as a business as a whole on 6.4 billion pounds worth of turnover. We've increased our turnover by 50%, but our profit has increased by 200%. So the demonstration of the cost to value ratio and the earned value per person per hour per capita,
Right.
the gap has increased. So that the positive jaws, so cost of your service.
That makes sense. The order book increase, though, I'm wondering whether that's actually an increase.
Yes, so we've got there's a huge
Inflation taken 50. Isn't inflation over the?
There'll be an element of inflation in that increase. Yes,
I'm just wondering if the increase is accounted for entirely by inflation.
No, not entirely. We've got new clients that we've not worked with before. When we've moved into defence sector, we've just become Rolls-Royce's construction partner of choice for the next 10 years. So we're opening up new markets that we've not been in before,
Right.
And that's led to some of those orders coming in.
Thank you.
Who wants this?
Do you have time? No. No, sorry.
There you go. One question. Got away that easy, didn't I? Thank you very much, everyone.
Right, now I'd like to call Professor Carlos Fermoso to talk about tax protection. So move on to another one. We will have time
You'll need
for
your supply deck and
questions
those
and
are
answers
these. All right.
at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, just make a note of those and you can go back to the session. What I'm doing as well is making notes as we go along about some things that I will just bring up to refresh your memories when we have the Q&A. Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
You mentioned. Stuart, whilst we wait, are you working in collaboration with any higher education institution at the moment?
So
Because if not, I think we should.
So yes, happy to support. I did a bit of stuff with Christine and Alexa Zishan Aziz from Salford.
Yes, yes.
And we did a bit of stuff with the Newton Trust as well. So happy to get involved. Yeah, just let me know.
I think so. I think partly the aim of today is to find where these opportunities are. You know, there's loads of different means we could collaborate. So hopefully this is going to be one of the options.
So yeah, I've been part of the LCI. I was chair of the community of practice in the Northwest. I'm on the MS6 committee that reviewed the ISO standards. So happy to share and get involved. So feel free.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Carlos.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Formoso. I'm a professor in construction management from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, which is the south of Brazil, where Professor Tsotsopoulos was born. Today, I'm going to talk about TAC production, which is a very popular topic nowadays in the lean construction community. But I'd like to emphasize this difficulty of using TAC production in complex environment. A construction project is typically a complex environment. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to bring a definition of TAC production, which comes from manufacturing. I'm going to talk about mechanisms to cope with complexity, examples of TAC plans in construction, companies from different countries which have been successful in the implementation of TAC production. I'm going to talk about something very important, which is TAC control. So how do you keep your project following the TAC time, and some future perspectives. So what is TAC time, right? So TAC time, it's a number that sets a regular beat for production. So work can flow in time and space. So this is very important. It creates repetition. Repetition contributes to increased productivity. And it creates flow, which is a fundamental concept in lean production, right? You can think of flow of products. You can think of flow of workers or machines. TAC time is also very important from the point of view of the customer, because it sets the pace, the necessary pace to meet customer demand, right? So in the car manufacturing companies, they have, for instance, a TAC time of 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that. This is the demand you have. So people do have, on average, one people buying a car every 2 minutes, something like that. So it contributes to increase efficiency. It can contribute to reduce project duration, right? And it simplifies control. So if you have a TAC plan, it's very good to use as a visual management tool. This is a typical figure from manufacturing. This is a modular construction company from Japan. They have a capacity of 3 houses a day. They use 12 to 13 modules for each house, and the TAC time is 5 minutes, right? So we have several workstations. So each workstation takes less than 5 minutes to do a task, right? Typically less. The TAC time is the Japanese call maximum cycle time, right? Of course, this is construction, but it's very different from most projects, right? This is a typical TAC plan from a residential building company from Brazil, right? So we have the same pace. Sometimes you have a different pace for some activities because there are some constraints, or you might have some activities that are not exactly in the TAC, we call off-TAC activities. What's the difference between TAC time and cycle time? This is really important, and this is neglected by many companies that implement TAC production, right? So when you look at TAC time, you're looking at the pace, right? So you're looking at the crews flowing along the project. So you're looking at the product flow, right? The product flow is here. You see, this is street and workflow, but this is actually product flow. So this is a floor that goes through several crews. What is cycle time? Cycle time is when you look at the cycle a crew does in the daily work, right? For instance, this is an improvement project we've done with the company. They had a cycle time of 16 days, which means takt time needs to be longer. Typical percentage of buffer, time buffer we have is 10%. So you need 1.5 days more for the takt time, right? What was the problem with this company is that the cycle time, the takt time was 6 days. So we've planned, we redistributed that crew, we made some improvements, we divided the floor in smaller batches, we gave each crew a number of batches, so we managed to reduce to 5 days. So every crew would do the work within the takt time of 6 days. So that's a very important difference, right? So the importance of takt time or takt production is that it connects product flows with workflows, right? So you have like a general improvement in the whole project, right? Crews work close to each other so they can exchange information. Sometimes they see each other, right? So you share information and you can even share some tasks. They can have some interaction in the project. But in order to do that, you need to use takt time as a driver for improvement, right? In order to keep a 5 or 6 day takt time in a construction site, you need to be improving all the time, right? It's not a question of establishing a routine. And this is also true for manufacturing. So they are doing several improvements in order to either to keep or to reduce the takt time, right? These improvements usually involve the implementation of some advanced lean practices or lean concepts. This is something I got from the internet. I typed takt plan, images, and I got that, right? So you see some companies doing this kind of plan. I find this type of plan too optimistic. There's no buffer, there's no variability, right? No slack. And a single takt time is assumed. Of course, you might have different takt times for different tasks. You might have, for instance, an internal takt time for the finishings and an external takt time for the facade, or a different takt time for earthwork, things like that, right? So what's the problem? Construction is very complex, right? Why is it complex? Because it has a large number of elements, activities, organizations, different types of contracts, and many interdependencies. When you have that and variability, right? Variability can be related to goals or to methods, right? When you have that, you have a complex system, right? For instance, a hospital is typically a project that has many different elements, many different interdependencies. This is a project in a car manufacturing complex, so there was interference from the operation of the plants in this complex, affected this specific project. This is a Japanese housing manufacturing company. Site assembly seems to be very simple, but there is a kind of complexity related to the interdependencies in the supply chain. Anyway, each kind of project has a different type of complexity. When you have that, there are emerging events, unexpected variability, things that are very difficult to predict. This variability can propagate. I mean, one activity A causes a delay in activity B, or you might have some defects, you need to do rework. So these are examples of propagation of variability. It's difficult to predict events because of that. And people have different perceptions about the project because it's so complex. Nobody can understand everything in the project, every single detail, right? Collaboration is very important. So that's why the last planner is so good. And traditional control has a limited role. What is traditional control? Managing by adhering. So this plan, what it's proposed, let's adhere to this plan. This is not possible if you have a high level of complexity. And of course, you can use the last planner system to support TAC planning. Typically, TAC planning is at the long-term level, right? And the last planner system has several mechanisms to deal with complexity. That's why it's so effective in construction. For instance, you have collaborative planning, that's a mechanism. You have learning, that's another mechanism for improving effectiveness in planning. You have a backlog of made-ready work packages. This is a contingency plan. So it's very good to have the last planner system, but it might not be enough to deal with the complexity in TAC production, right? So there is some additional strategies you can use to deal with complexity. For instance, you can have time buffers, different types of time buffers, choose exactly where you're going to use. You must have capacity buffer. Anyway, several different types of slack. Some of them are traditional types of buffers. Some of them are what we call organizational slack. For instance, confirmation points. That's a kind of redundancy in decision-making. That's another mechanism for dealing with complexity. This is a TAC plan from a Chilean company, Socoveza, okay? So you can see this strategy that many companies use. You have a number of trains of synchronized tasks. So you don't try to synchronize the whole project, but you synchronize tasks that are highly connected. And then you have buffers, time buffers between those tasks. And this provides the opportunity of, if you have any kind of delay, you can do a recovery plan in your TAC plan, right? This is a very good example, very good application of TAC planning. This is Skanska from Finland. I visited this project a while ago, a very large hospital project with not much repetition, but then they divided the project in TAC areas. What I found really interesting, they integrated quality inspections in the TAC plan. The TAC time was 1 week, which enabled them to have enough time for doing inspections and doing some repairs that were necessary during this TAC time. They also had TAC time in the delivery of materials, so which was like there was a weekly delivery of different components following the same TAC time. So they didn't have large inventories in the construction site. This is DPR, a project from DPR, right? You can see here the TAC plan for production. And it was really interesting because they had a TAC plan for design. Design was also divided in small packages, right? And they had even some commissioning activities that, related to the delivery of the project, and they have the date for the first patient, right? So it's much more integrated tactile. This is a bridge project. It looks much uglier than the other ones, but of course you have lots of uncertainty in this type of project. You have the weather, there is a river that might have a low level or a high level depending on the rain. And another interesting thing about this project, it had 13 versions of this TAC plan. And changing the TAC plan was a good thing. It was a sign of learning. This is something you wouldn't do, or you avoid doing in a residential building project. You want to keep the same TAC, long-term TAC plan during the whole project. This is another project, another infrastructure project, in which they had only one task. This is a drainage project. So they had one task in the with the TAC time. All the other ones had to organize themselves. The other crews had to organize to avoid deviations in that TAC time. This is a modular construction project. A modular construction company that deals with several projects at the same time. They had a TAC plan for the manufacturing, and they had a TAC plan for site assembly and also a TAC plan for design. So TAC plan can help you to integrate different units in the production company. This is a Brazilian company. And of course, you need to have TAC control. This is a very useful tool called matrix of production status, in which you see if you have delays, you see work in progress, right? This is a software that is able to do that. And based on that, you can have an interesting set of metrics, right? This is, for instance, is monitoring cycle time, right? So if you want to reduce the cycle time, you need to monitor that. This is, you monitor the deviation in terms of rhythm of the main processes. This is adherence to batch, if you're adhering to the predefined batch. And this is a graph of project progress and project completeness, considering only batches that have been completely finished. Conclusion, TAC time. It's nice to use TAC time with the last planner. It can be regarded as an extension of the last planner system. And it enables you to use some more advanced lean concepts. Reduction of batch size is very important. You need to reduce cycle time and reduce the variation in cycle time. You can use visual management, explicit use of Slack. This must be part of the plan, pool production, and so on. But complexity of construction projects must not be neglected. You must use a number of strategies to deal with that. Different types of Slack, including organizational Slack, adjustment mechanisms, for instance, confirmation points, recovery plans. And let's say that TAC production can eventually lead to simplification, right? And integration of planning and control systems. For instance, manufacturing plant, site installation design, or in a company, you might have different types of interdependencies between units. But eventually, right, you have to do lots of continuous improvement. Many changes have to apply several of those concepts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shall I take just one? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One question for Carlos. Please. Oh, mine. Sorry, sorry.
Just one question, because thank you very much for the presentation. Capital planning, do you think is mainly for industrialized construction type of projects, or can you also use it for any type of conventional projects, like more institute?
Yeah, no, we can use for conventional construction. That project from Chile, they don't use, they use just a few industrialized components, but it's very traditional construction. What's the difference? In traditional construction, you have more variability, right? So you should have a larger buffer between your takt time and your cycle time. Depending on the task, you might have a larger buffer than in some tasks than in other tasks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
We have some time for the next presenter is called Ernst from Pura Construction Limited, and the presentation title is From KTP Associate to KTP Industry Sponsor, Improving Flow Through Design Science and Action Research. So thank you. We need to put the presentation slides up.
Lesson. I tried to do 18.
For you, because I don't know where you're doing, sorry.
So this is more of a academic presentation, yeah. So I kind of go between both. I put a PhD hat on sometimes, but I also work in industry. So this is a little bit of both. So a KDP was a knowledge development project, okay, and a KTP is a knowledge transfer partnership. Sorry, knowledge development partnership. And the difference is the KDP was 100% funded by a company I was with, whereas a KTP, if you're an SME, Innovate UK will fund nearly 70% of that. So CLIPS, you're probably wondering, what the hell is that? So that's Securo, Lean, and Integrated Production System. But that's as a result of all this learning. And then my other hat is a PhD student here. So not very jazzy, these slides, but it's the only way to tell the story. So basically, I'm going to tell the story of, kind of my career. I'm sorry to bore you. And going back to a little bit of academia, doing a PhD, you have to get your head around epistemology and ontology. Yeah, not easy for a practitioner, because you go, what is that? But when you get your head around it, actually it changes how you look at things. Okay, so I kind of describe it as my glasses here, because my prescription is probably unique to anybody else here. So epistemology is the knowledge that's out there, and ontology is how you view the world. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you the story, because how I view the world now changes because of the knowledge I've gained. Okay, so I started in the trades, then I was a site manager. Then I had an aha moment out on site when things were going really wrong, and my supervisor introduced me to Lean. Yeah, met this lovely IGLC community. Who's been to IGLC before? Okay, so if you haven't, put it on your bucket list. Yeah, because that's where the real stuff happens. So we went over to the States. Then I met Christine Pasquire over in one of the IGLC conferences. Christine says to me, this project's starting up in the Northwest. Do you know somebody interested? So it turned out to be me. Then all the stuff I've learned, I've been applying that in industry, while hard trying to write up my PhD. And now I'm in Curo. So I think I found me home. I don't think I'm going to retire. I'm giving away my age here, but I think I'm there till I retire now. So that's kind of my journey. Yeah, started as a technician. Then I was snagging, finding all the problems. Then I went to college and started a degree in construction management. Then I became a site manager. Then I had the aha moment. So this is kind of in 5 phases. So phase 1, gone. Yeah. Phase 2, then I met somebody in Ireland called Tony Corrigan. That was 2010, not 2020. My supervisor Ray introduced me. He's not with us anymore. So a nod to him, but he set me on the path. And once I set on this path, it's a little bit like religion. Okay, Lean. You either believe it to do it, or sometimes you do it to believe it. Yeah. So when I came across it, I believed it, so I started doing it. Some people need the opposite. I then wrote a little dissertation: can Lean improve the Irish AEC sector? So this is where Barack Obama was becoming president, and I says, yes, it can. Yeah, that was my overwhelming conclusion. Then started an MPhil. Then in Ireland, Kevin's there, but we set up a construction innovation lab, being another colleague, Vincent Gibson.
And our tagline was to innovate through research. Now, didn't know really much about research at that point, but we knew this IGLC community was research, and there's a nice synergy with industry when you do research. Went to Oslo, met Dave Umstadt as part of my research. He says to me, "Are you going to IGLC?" And I was like, "What's that?" Yeah, so I was like, "Well, I am now." So met him over there, then started working with them a couple of months later, and published my first paper then about 5 years after my lean journey started. Yeah, looking at the difference between theory and practice in the Irish AEC sector. So my takeaway, yeah, if you want to read the paper, you can Google it, yeah. But the takeaway after 5 years, and Alan was one of the people I interviewed, but lean was about, helping value flow to customers. Yeah, it's not about removing waste. Okay, yeah, that was the curveball that was thrown. So when we think about removing waste, generally, and nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but generally we think of the physical waste. But Carlos talking about variation, that's another form of waste. Overburden, the stress we give people, that's the other form of waste. There's a much bigger picture here, but it's about flow. And Carlos mentioned that as well. Third phase then, so at IGLC, met Christine. She says, "Oh, I have this project in the Northwest starting." So I was in San Diego at the time, and to be honest, I just moved there, and I wasn't intending coming back. But when Christine shared with me the 2-page application, I was like, wow, that's been written for me. Yeah, so the title of the project was to design and develop. It was actually a lean project production system. Yeah, I kind of morphed that to a delivery system because of my epistemology and ontology, because I didn't understand production then. Yeah, but Christine did, obviously, but I didn't. And there was loads of outputs throughout that project and lots of learnings. It was really about transformation for an organization, which wasn't easy. Yeah, really, really, really tough in reality. And other stuff published, and then at the end of that, I said, right, I'm going to write this up as a PhD. So that was a 3-year project, basically. And my kind of takeaways from that, yeah, I took a step back to say that, well, shared understanding is one of the 8 flows. On this project, one of the objectives was to model the 8 flows of lean across the business, okay? And when I started that, there was a continuous improvement manager there, and he says, "Paul, really excited about what you're going to do here." And I said, "So am I, because I don't know." Yeah, and that's the thing about when you do a research project, you don't know, you might know where you want to get to, but you don't know how you're going to get there. So these 8 flows: information, equipment, materials, people or workers, prior activity, external stuff, safe space, which is physical space, and this mental thing up here, not overburden it, and shared understanding. So my overarching takeaway was how shared understanding was the gel that holds all this together. So people say, what is shared understanding? Yeah. So best example I have is from real stuff and practice. So if you have a pen, just bear with me. So a couple of years ago, doing a project, and Noor Al-Ur, who some of you will know, she texted me and says, "Paul, can you send me the postcode for the project?" So I went up to John, who's a site manager, and I said, "John, can you give me the postcode?" He says, "Yep." So I type into my phone. He says, "It's S64NB. Okay? So I typed this into my phone. Yeah? S64NB. And me being from Ireland, obviously I don't understand postcodes. So Nora arrives 20 minutes late, and she goes, "Wrong postcode." And I was like, "I don't know." And John's like, "What do you mean wrong postcode?" So at the end of the day, John comes over and he says, "Hold on, how did you get the wrong postcode?" So it was S64NB. So exactly the same thing, but shared understanding is when people go, "Ah, that's what you wanted." Yeah, so all we're trying to do is get that, that's what you wanted. Anyhow, meanwhile, so that was about shared understanding, and that sticks with people when they get it. Make ready. So we're deploying the last panel system on this project, but make ready struggled with it. Turns out everybody in the world struggles with it. Yeah, it's not hard. It's just boring. Okay, so we'll come back to that. the last panel system, okay, not everything about lean, but it's a great foundation for getting everything in place. It's, you know, it's more of a social system than a technical system. And then production, when I got to understand it, it's everything we do. It's not just the physical stuff that you can see. It's all the stuff that we do, whether that's training, HR, aftercare, it's everything that we do. And there's just a list of the things that we published. Okay, so I finish up that project. Now I'm going back into industry, okay? Because during that project, I was actually employed by NTU as a research fellow. So I go back into industry, and there's a few acronyms here, which I'll explain. But so joined WSP because of actually research showcase days that were done here at NTU. And Rob Hales, who was at WSP at the time, I'd met Rob. Okay, so I'd moved over here, and just so happened to be talking to Rob, and he says, "Oh, we're looking for somebody." So I joined WSP because I was convinced by Rob about this thing called ISO 18404. So that's what Stuart was saying. It's a model for lean transformation. I'm just going to touch on that very slightly. And then ALPS, okay, that's the Alliance Lean Production System. Okay, so for the Smart Motorway Program Alliance, I worked with the bid team before WSP won the contract. And in the bid, I wrote in that we would help co-create the Alliance Lean Production System. Now, I didn't know what that was going to be, yeah, but I knew it was going to be something that we'd call the way we go to work. And then I'm not going to talk about my PhD research, but it's about integrating risk management with the last panel system. But fundamentally, it's coming back to make ready, learning, you know, all those functions that I'm working. So in each of these design science phases, things were developing. So as I moved from the phase one, it was like, all right, here we go, here's something. Then I moved to the next one, and instead of going from a flow walk, it moved into another kind of concept. When I went to the next one in the Middle East, I kind of took that to the next level. And at all these points then, I was reflecting back to see what worked or didn't work, and then try that again in industry again. Meanwhile, not writing up anything, but of course, doing stuff as a practitioner. And then, you know, after a while, we got certified with 18404. We published a playbook, okay? And then we published a few papers, okay? So it takes a while for the knowledge you're doing in industry to actually get back. So because obviously we're in a university, I'm going to talk about action research and design science just a little bit. But it's, and Carlos and Patricia know this really well, as is Emmanuel, but it really is so well suited for stuff we're doing in industry. You know, it's like, it really, the more you reflect on it, the more it's like so good. So Christine says to me, Christine Pasquire, she says, she's always said, Paul, it needs to go on a page. You want to explain to somebody, it has to be on a page. So I had to go right, had to put my methodology on a page. This is my timeline of those case studies. And then the more I reflected back, was like, God, I've done so much. I didn't start off, you know, aiming to do this. I started off aiming to do this. But then the more I used it in industry, the more it got developed. So these were all loops of improvement. But then I'd reflect after each one and put it into this model of design science. So the two of them talk to each other really, really, really well. But the thing is with design science is you want to contribute something useful as what we call an artifact. Okay, so the artifact is whatever you're designing, whatever is new. Yeah, so for me, it's IRMA 360, integrated risk management approach. So, you know, key takeaways was, you know, if we're starting this again, if you're thinking about a PhD, well, actually getting this methodology clear in your head before you start is really, really helpful. But the synergy between this and lean philosophy is just so good. And so there's not a coincidence that all these projects in IGLC, a lot of them use action research and design science. So takeaways from the fourth phase then. 18404, definitely a model for lean transformation. Yeah, my PhD research, it helps bring in risk management, learning, make ready functions. But then lean, yeah, all this talk about lean, bolting that onto a broken production system is just a sticky plaster. Yeah, so it comes back to the production system being king or queen. So Curo, this is where I am now. Okay, really proud to be there, honest to God. So small little company, relative terms, turning over about 160, 180 million now. The goal is to be turning over $1 billion sustainably in about 8 years' time. So we've worked on our purpose statement. Yeah, so we want to be different. So we're not here to do what's always been done. Yeah, we really want to disrupt the market and be different. It's a little statement down there. It sounds like marketing and bid text. It's not. Yeah, we've worked on this. The two owners are like, we need this in the blood of everybody. So I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's a really, really cool company to be part of. So we just want to build better projects, better teams, better processes, better everything. So about Curo, we work in multiple sectors. Yeah, we're small at the moment, but we work in, whether it's renovation, cut and carve, leisure stuff. There's some residential stuff going on. There's also a kind of a network of family-owned companies. Yeah, so it's a self-delivery model in a way. But these companies are drywall, there's brick there's scaffolding, there's one facades, etc., etc. Yeah, but there's a network of companies who work on various different projects. So what we're trying to do is IPD-ish. Yeah, so we're trying to bring everything as much in-house so we can deliver the best. What's the Curo Lean Integrated Production System? So I made this up. Yeah, yeah. There wasn't a job spec for me to join. I joined Curo. I'd done a little bit of work with them. We did an 18404 course, Steve Ward and I, Steve Ward's client actually, about nearly 2 years ago. And after a while, did another bit, and Rob, my boss in Curo, says to me, "So when are you going to join us then?" So that was it. And I was like, I don't want to go to London. And he goes, we can work something out. So anyway, we just started talking. And then Steve and I were thinking, how can we help this company? So again, I wasn't thinking about joining. And we wrote a little one-pager saying, what would we call this? And we were like, the Curo Lean Integrated Production System. So by Curo, it's for Curo. Yeah, it's like Toyota Production System for Toyota. It's going to be bespoke to what we want. Lean, whatever is relevant with the current best practices. We're starting a tax pilot, might be direct work observation, visual management, whatever. That's all to be decided. I have a good idea what that is. But also the KTP stuff. Yeah, we want to bring in the global knowledge. Yeah, so this is where the KTP links in. By integrated, that's about people, processes, technology, contracts, all the stuff we need for IPD. But that's kind of where all the ISO stuff comes in, with 18404 being the how for how we do this. Our production systems, this is where it's going to take time for people to get their head around it. Production is everything we do. Yeah, whether that's one of the QSs producing the CVR, cost value report, or whether it's aftercare stuff, whether it's onboarding somebody. Production is everything that we do. And I often say to people, there's an app called POP, I think it is here. Okay, my wife Gaynor says she's never seen me so happy about expenses. Yeah, so it takes 53 seconds or less probably to do an expense. Photograph, little thing, boom, done. So I say to people, the goal is everything is like this app here. Yeah, whatever that is. And by a system, it's just that's the whole thing coming all together. Yeah. So anyway, so that's Clips in a nutshell. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but that's what it is in a nutshell. So what's next? Yeah. So I only joined. This is my 10th week in Curo. Okay. So although I did know the people beforehand, anything I ever said or Steve Ward ever says, they just go, okay, let's do that. Okay, so Ocean Canroy, yeah. So we've started that. There's a single-page plan for the board. Yeah, we've already started dropping that down to divisions and central services. I'll show you a little map of my thinking. Thinking about my PhD research. So this is again bringing it back to KTP stuff. Yeah. So this is Dr. PAMPs that we're using in the Alliance. Yeah. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. This worked really well. So I put it in front of people in Curo. I said, you know what, just mark off what's not relevant. So let's not go back and start things again. So there's me sitting down with somebody and changing things. Yeah. So, and I thought, actually, Dr. PAMS is a really good framework for learning, for risk management, for all those things, and people can remember it. So chances are we're just going to use this as our framework in general. KTP, sorry, that should be KTP, why we're here today. Yeah, so board, I went to the board last Thursday, talked about this, I said, what do you think? Yeah, okay. Yeah, now we had talked about it before, but they said, yeah, thumbs up. So we're going to investigate that now with Emmanuel and Patricia. And we need to define what that title is going to be. Yeah, so to be decided. Yeah, but it's going to address some of the problems that we have. Do a playbook like the Alps playbook, but it'll be Eclipse playbook, probably about 2-3 years from now. We do want to share our learning with the world. Yeah, that's why we're doing a KTB. We'll write that up through IGLC. And then, you know, the goal in 2035 is to go from 180-ish, 200 this year to 1 billion, but doing that sustainably, you know, so getting the right people on the bus, having robust systems and processes, and having happy customers. That's our core themes that are there. And, you know, part of those goals will be to have a sustainable profit margin. That shouldn't be a dirty word for people, you know. We need to breathe, so we need to make a sustainable profit. So Hoshin Canrai, so I went to the board last Thursday, because here's our single page plan. We started doing our central services over here. Here's our lean strategy over here. But we're going to do this right. So I said, actually, do you know what? I said, I went away, I read this the week before last, and before I finished, the owner, Darren, says, well, why don't we do a study group? Alan's done a study action team with them. So it didn't even have to say we do a study action team. So now we're going to do a study action team with the board, and some of these people here develop these over the next 3 months, and it's going to all link down with personal development plans. Yeah, so they're my key takeaways. You know, KTPs, it really does give you the skill for current and future state planning. Yeah, key to lean, action research, design science. Getting your head around that as a practitioner is really, really, really helpful, actually. Production's everything we do. Lean so much more than the last planner system. Yeah, it's you know, 18404 really is a model, and Stuart will tell you about this. And then shared understanding being the gel. So
Thank you.
that's it. I'm over.
Thank you so much. We have like some 10 minutes now for questions and answers for all the speakers. So I don't know if it's better for the speakers to maybe come to the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to start?
Okay.
Thank you. I will just say a couple of words about each presentation from my personal perspective here. I think Neil's talk was really interesting because I felt, of course, we've gone through a long-term journey, which is essential, really. And there are elements there that you highlighted, Neil, which are obviously important for us to actually work together, you know, that could be building bridges between the academic world and practice. So you talked about Helma, and it's something I know you've implemented for a long time, but could Helma be something that we could actually develop a bit further through higher education institutions? I mean, possibly training and sport training and across the board.
Well, I mean, I think it's a system. It needs to be rolled out further, and people need to be exposed to it, because it's not only just a maturity assessment. For me, it's how you would operate a company to lean practices. You know, I think.
I can reiterate that, because we've taken Helma from a highways business and we've rolled it out into nuclear on Sellafield, and the client at Sellafield likes it. We've rolled it out at HPC and the same model, the same framework works, and it aligns fully with 18404.
It does.
And another comment as well, I think we also have the opportunity to roll out Helma to other countries as well. The government is quite limited to the UK and infrastructure projects, so can we do that in Brazil? Can we do that in other countries and that as well?
I just feel it's a powerful tool, you know, that hasn't been really exploited to its full potential. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose just a bit of news, breaking news, was that I'm part of an intergovernmental continuous improvement group. And someone put on there the other day, has anyone got a system for doing maturity assessments? And of course, I said, yeah, we've got Helmut. I just responded to this guy. I've had about 30 different government organisations saying, could we meet you, you know? So I'll do one seminar with all of you, you know. And,
Policy.
yeah.
Right. I mean, I was also looking at Stuart's presentation. It was absolutely great to see Lean as the first pillar. I think that makes such a big difference, isn't it? Because across different companies here in the UK, I know there has been a lot of talk about Lean, and everybody says that they do Lean, but nobody really understands, I think, Lean properly to its core. And that has led to a bit of an industry view that Lean is a fad that doesn't really work. Right, and I think that partly, hopefully, this group will be able to address that, you know, and help start changing industry perspectives on what Lean does and can do and cannot do. Really.
I think we need to consider not only for the sort of approach we had or have for looking at processes, creating flow and waste. What are we doing about behavioural science? So it's an area we've been looking into quite a bit over the last 6 months. We got in contact with Professor Marie Johnson from Aberdeen. She's the advisor to the World Health Organization, how they do cultural and philosophical change to, on a big scale. It's quite interesting. I think it's an area we just need a lot more work in.
I'll open up for questions for this, because otherwise we'll just keep on talking.
Thank you. And this is for everybody, really. Like you, Stuart, my early career was in manufacturing, in automotive. A lot of this was 30 years ago, manufacturing. Why is it taking, do you think, has it taken so long for the construction industry to get on board with it? And what can we learn from that?
I think for me, it's been, the construction industry has been very much a risk-averse industry. We don't want to change what we've already done. We put a lighting column up using this lighting column and this methodology, and we've been doing it for years and it works. So why change it? Whereas automotive, aviation, aerospace, we innovated. We constantly challenged what we did because we were in an environment where we could do it. You could go and put some new brake discs or brake calipers onto a car in a different position or different rotational area, and you could change the way the car performed, but you did it in a very, very closed environment, a very, very sort of safe sandbox. Construction can't build a new bridge unless you actually go and build the bridge and test it, and there's a much more significant cost involved. So it's been very much risk, getting over that kind of where does the risk sit and who does it sit with. And you get people like I mentioned, a guy called John Secco. We wanted to go out and 12 million tons of tarmac in one crew. And John was the guy who said, right, okay, we're going to shut the M65 and you're going to go out and do 12 million tons. And he took it upon himself within National Highways to take any flack that got sent National Highways way. But we proved that it could work by having that environment in which you could do it. So we need to step away from the risk element and think outside the box, black box thinking. We talk about it all the time.
I think as well, Stuart, is that when you've got to look at our leaders, which run a lot of our organisations, few are accepting to take, again, risk. We get seconded graduates that come to work with our team. And for me, the biggest people who are the sales people for Lean are those graduates, because if I brought them along, they'd just give you 2 minutes. Lean is just the most amazing thing. I cannot understand as a young person why everyone's not doing it. And yet you're speaking to the leadership team and they'll say, we've got some cracking Lean, we've got a Lean team. I'm not really bothered with that. Just give me the output, I couldn't care if you use cross bones or whatever. So we've got some work to do in that space as well. And that's why we do the leadership Lean training, which is important.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. I think it's very important to consider that construction is a very fragmented sector. So we have many different organizations. We have a very large number of small companies, and it's much more difficult to disseminate practices in that sector. For instance, if you think of the car industry, how many companies are? Much smaller number of companies, right? Than construction. Because in Brazil, I think we have more than 100,000 construction companies in the country. Of course, there are some active companies that in Brazil or in other countries that manage to implement excellence in construction. very good examples in Brazil, but it's much more difficult to disseminate that among the whole sector. That's a real challenge.
Just last point. So, and I think you know, Richard, but lean doesn't work unless you do it. You know, so the whole construction industry is not more become really is the language, you know. But our whole industry is not becoming lean. It's just, oh, what's this? So,
I mean, I was doing a research project some years ago now with Koreans.
Mhm.
And they used to try and implement some last planner, which was very basic, simple, but in a retrofit project. And I couldn't get the team to sit down and do a meeting because it was a waste of time.
yeah.
So that's the kind of barriers we actually, encounter in practice, which is, you want to explain and try to, demonstrate the hundreds of examples that we have of successes by actually doing that. Still,
Just one small point, and that's why, Shiro beside me here, that's why ISO 18404 is so good. Yeah, because the best way to describe it is 2 words, or maybe 1 word. So it's anti-bullshit. Yeah, because you can't fudge it. Yeah, if you get certified to this, your system has to be working like Balfabetes. That's why we're going for it in Curo. It worked in the Alliance. It worked on the pilot project. But you have to understand it's not your typical ISO. It's not a tick-the-box ISO. You really have to demonstrate you've done this. So.
Great. I think we have to stop now. I apologize for that. We have a short 10-minute coffee break. So let's grab a coffee and thank our listeners.
So you'll have some challenges in it. Curo too. I mean,
Well, yeah, as well, yeah.
You know about how you do about the philosophy.
Well, there'll be different ones. Oh.
All right.
Ja,